Hi, guys. Good night. Welcome to another episode of Canute Consulting Live, a knowledge based platform focusing on sales, business news and trends, talent optimization, technology, cybersecurity, and public relations. We're joining you live tonight from Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitch. We want you to be very active tonight. We want your questions. We want your comments in the comments section. Please let us know where you're streaming from, and please let us know what questions you may have for our guest tonight. If you're not familiar with Canute Consulting, we're a full sales services consultancy company providing support for customers in the Caribbean and North America. For more information on who we are and what we do, please feel free to connect with us at www.canuteconsulting.com. Again, good night and welcome. So tonight we have some very esteemed guests. We're going to be talking about a very interesting topic tonight, the Great Resignation. I've gotten so many messages from persons asking what is this about. So I'm going to be introducing my guests tonight, Ken Silva from the Predictive Index, senior channel account manager with the Predictive Index, and Shauna Ebanks, a seasoned talent acquisition specialist, joining us tonight. Ken, Shauna, can you introduce yourself to the audience tonight? Starting with Ken.
I was going to say ladies first, but I will definitely introduce myself. So I'm Ken. I am a senior account channel manager at Predictive Index, and what that means is I actually lead a team that helps our awesome partners as they're starting their partnership with Predictive Index to get off on the right foot and hopefully set them on a path to sustainability. So the Predictive Index, for those of you that don't know the Predictive Index, we help organizations create a talent strategy that aligns with their business strategy so they can deliver on the results that they set out to achieve. And I'm excited to be here tonight for the conversation because this is something that is impacting me as a leader of a team and a hiring manager, as well as the partners and the clients I help serve. I'm hearing a lot about what this means to folks right now.
And we're going to get into it. Over to you, Shauna.
Hi, I'm Shauna. I am currently a regional talent acquisition specialist at one of the top international companies in the world. I've been doing recruiting for maybe about 7 to 8 years. And I've worked in many fields apart from transportation. I've worked with labs as well as the medical field, of course. And I look forward to the conversation that we're about to have because it's a hot topic for everyone right now, currently looking for jobs and for hiring managers who are actually trying to retain some employees.
Okay, great. So you kind of segued into one of my first questions, but I won't jump into that yet. I'm going to go back to Ken. Now, Ken, when I thought about the stream tonight and I put the name out and I started advertising, a lot of persons were like, the Great Resignation. What's that about? What's that talking about? So a lot of persons are very curious to understand, what is this coined name, the Great Resignation? What's that all about? Ken, give us some context from the perspective of what that is.
Yeah, essentially what's happening, there are a number of factors that are like combined together to form, I would call it a perfect storm in the employment world. But folks are leaving careers and organizations at alarming rates. Literally 1 out of every 2 employees has considered making a change. And I think it's roughly 78% of organizations right now are hiring. So there's a lot of hiring going on. And then you couple that with what happened as a result of COVID, where people were mostly locked at home in many, professions. Certainly there were some professions where you were not necessarily able to work from home, but most of us, or a large percentage of folks, were kind of trapped at home. And I'm not surprised to see that they maybe hunkered down, stayed in their roles maybe longer than they normally would have. And so as things started to open up again, and folks were had maybe kind of kept it inside and not done anything about it. And then now you also have organizations who are coming back and they're not bringing people back on site. I think it was the latest report show that roughly 2/3 of companies are still going to be returning into what's called more of a hybrid workforce, which from an employee standpoint gives someone who's looking for a job a lot more choice, as well as somebody who's recruiting if you're recruiting remotely. So you have all these things happening
Mm-hmm.
that are like the impact of it is organizations are losing people at rates that they haven't seen before. And I know we're going to talk a little bit about that today.
Thank you so much, Ken. So, Shauna, you've been in HR professional for some time. You have a lot of experience and exposure. How does this resonate with you as someone who specializes in acquiring talent? What's the general feeling of the hiring market now, primarily in the US?
I would say right now in the US, the hiring market is sparse. Between the, as Ken said, everyone wants to work from home. No one wants to come into the office. With the
Mm-hmm.
changes now and the improvements with, how things are handled for COVID, a lot of companies actually do want to have people in office face to face on a daily basis, depending on the position, of course.
Yep.
But it's hard to find actual talent, people who are actually qualified, who are applying for each role. As Ken said, people are switching positions, but not every job that you've had in the past is transferable. So, you know, customer service is a general topic or a general type of position, but someone who works in the mall setting who doesn't want to have that contact and would prefer maybe a customer service position over the phone, it's a little bit different for them because it's not the same thing. But in their mind, they think it's a transferable job, but it's not. So the
Mm-hmm.
challenge is, having hiring managers be okay with someone who does not necessarily have that experience yet, and
Mm-hmm.
then having them, give them that opportunity to, change that career. There are so many benefits now that also the government is offering as it pertains to unemployment and other benefits, monthly benefits that they do get. You have the child care benefits. All these things assist a lot of people on a daily basis, and what even the companies are offering as it pertains to their rates or compensation does not
Mm-hmm.
compare. So for someone who is getting all these benefits, has 3 kids, and can stay home and extend their unemployment, they're going to stay home instead of coming in and working a job that offers them no more than $18 an hour. So
Mm-hmm.
it's been hard to get the right talent. So
Mm-hmm.
the only way to do so, it's literally poaching candidates from different companies that
From
have,
other companies.
yes,
That's what you
that,
have to do.
that's the only way you're going to do it. Or try to work with a hiring manager where we have like programs or develop programs of development for candidates who don't have that necessary talent that you're looking for yet,
Mm-hmm.
but has the
Mm-hmm.
potential to be what you need them to be, and hopefully improve on their talent over the year. And we have a lot of temp to perms. That's basically what we have to do now. Work
Correct. Correct.
temporary employees and move them 3 months or 6 months into permanent roles if they prove themselves, or depending on the pace that they learn. But those are the only options that we kind of have right now because it's very hard. You either have the non-talented or the over-talented as well. And we can't pay the over-talented because you're going against market value as well. So it's a lot.
Gotcha. I want to segue a little bit into something that's related to this conversation, but it's kind of not, right? This is actually a very shameless plug, right? So the predictive index, and I'm a certified talent optimization consultant. My company is a certified partner with PI. There's a functionality that's a part of it called Hire. How Hire works is that you do a behavioral assessment and you get a result. So just for context on this conversation, I'm what they would call a strategist. Ken is what they would call a maverick, and Sean is what they would call a promoter. And there's different advantages and disadvantages to each type of reference profile, right? And what we're able to do is to create a job profile primarily from the predictive index data and some data that we'll input as well. And what we do is a comparison in terms of hiring. So if you're looking for a sales manager, for argument's sake, or a sales consultant, we're able to create a reference profile in terms of at least behaviorally what we're looking for, have candidates do the BA and actually compare it to that reference profile. So that gives you a score out of 10, that gives you a good understanding of how, at least behaviorally, how that hire would match, right? And that's pretty much how you go about doing hiring. It's not the only thing that you'll use to make a final decision, but I think the behavioral science aspect of it, which Ken can probably get into a little bit on how that works, a little bit more detail for us, the expert in the room. But that's one of the things that you need to consider. So if there's companies out there who are having this issue and they're looking to hire the right people, the right talent at the right time, the predictive index tool and consultants like myself are able to help. Ken?
Yeah, and I'm gonna tie it back to something that Shauna said, where she talked about hiring based on potential. We're definitely seeing a lot of that, and that somebody who has the right attitude and the right
Mm-hmm.
ability, you can teach them the skills and the job aspects that they need to learn. And to your point around hiring, some of the PI tools allow you to collect some scientific data about the people that you're looking at to help understand if you bring them into your organization, how are they going to perform? What are they going to show up? What are their strengths? So if I'm looking at a team, what are some of the things that they bring to the table? So if the three of us were a team, we each bring different strengths. We might all actually be in a similar position, but we all bring different strengths to the table. So it's not only for identifying who's likely to hit the ground running, who's going to be the things that you're going to ask them to do are the things that they're naturally strong at, the things that they typically get energy from, versus maybe other things that, I mean, humans are amazing. We can do anything. So I never want to say that somebody can't do
Yep.
something, but certain things that I'm asked to do really drain my energy. So if I
Uh-huh.
have to do those all day long, if that's all that I'm doing, it's probably not going to be a good fit for me or the organization. And so the idea with hiring is understand what you have, and then understand the areas where that person, if you do bring them in, is going to need maybe a little bit different coaching, maybe a little bit different support as you
Mm-hmm.
look at structuring the team.
Correct. Um, interesting stuff. Shauna, why do people usually leave their jobs? I have some information here I'm going to share with the audience, but I wanted to hear from an expert first. Why do people usually leave their jobs? Outside of the factors that we spoke about earlier, hybrid work, remote work, just a
That's
changing of the guard since COVID. But what are the traditional reasons why people leave their jobs in your
pre-COVID,
professional opinion?
pre-COVID,
Pre-COVID, yes.
post-COVID. There's two main things. Someone leaves a position based on compensation, and another reason they would leave based on their management team or their reports to.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily the company, but it's how things are done within your department. If you're not pleased with your manager, if your manager is not someone who pushes you, motivates you, congratulates you, but only focuses on negative. If someone's constantly listening to that, they're gonna go. They're not gonna
Mm-hmm.
sit there and tolerate that. If a candidate feels like they're not you know at their best, sometimes they tend to have conversations with new people coming in. Higher rates are given to newer candidates, which I see on a daily basis and have to fight for it to not be that way. I'm working at a company 10 years. Someone comes in with 2 years of experience and they're getting the same kind of compensation or even a dollar more than I am. They do have
Mm-hmm.
that conversation, even though we hope that they don't. We ask that compensation is not discussed. You don't discuss your rates with anyone, and that 10-year person is training you, and you become close, and you're like, yeah, I started at $18 when this 10-year person comes in is currently at 17. Okay, I've been here for 10 years and I'm still at $17 an hour, and you're hiring someone new and I'm training them. I'm going to find another job. because I
Mm-hmm.
believe my value is not being seen by the company at this time. Because I mean,
Definitely.
so people look at things like that, and then that's why, for the most part, I've been having to replace a couple positions. The third and final thing I would say is lack of training. Someone starts, they don't get the training and the understanding that they're supposed to get. They're just kind of thrown under the bus in certain situations, and from that point it becomes overwhelming for someone who's new. They're like, you know what, this is not a job for
Mm-hmm.
me, I'm going to leave. So
Definitely,
so
definitely.
your boss, money, and lack of training, I would say.
Okay, Ken. So as it relates to the management piece, can you tell our audience a little bit how PI can help to manage that in terms of management clashes, management not listening to their staff, not understanding their people. Can you tell our audience a little bit how the PI tool could help?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that to kind of summarize one of the points that Shauna made, people tend to leave. They don't leave organizations as much as they leave a bad manager.
Hmm.
So if
Mm-hmm.
you've got a poor leader in place that folks don't want to rally behind or follow into battle,
Mm-hmm.
then that results in disengagement, which tends to
Yeah,
result in
they're
ultimately.
no Julius
Yeah,
Caesar. Let's just put it like
yeah.
that.
And so I think what's happened is middle managers, which I'll put myself in that category, are kind of a little bit getting the squeeze, because I am seeing top down. Most organizations are leaning into what's happened. They're trying to reinvent themselves. They're trying to figure out how to solve, but they've in many cases promoted managers into positions where I'm hearing, folks are maybe not as qualified, maybe don't have as much experience, certainly maybe haven't led folks remotely or in a hybrid workforce, and certainly not during a pandemic. So there's a lot of things that are happening. I think the PI tools help remove and help, a lot of the noise I think that we all hear, and allow you to focus on and understand what really drives somebody,
Mm-hmm.
so that you can meet them where they're at. And the tools make it easy for an inexperienced leader who maybe doesn't have, you know, as much that they can fall back on in terms of what they've already been through in their career, to
Mm-hmm.
be able to provide those insights literally before you bring somebody onto the team, or if you're taking over a team, so you can understand where your team is at. And I think good
Correct.
leaders then are going to meet their employees where they are to maximize that relationship. So if I have someone on my team who, um, most folks, I think that, Sean and I especially, we're happy to jump in a room and brainstorm. We don't have to prepare for a meeting the same way that somebody else might need to. So as a good leader, I could assume, well, I'm just going to lead everybody the way that I want to be led. And
Mm-hmm.
if we're going to I've got something that just came top down that I've got to solve for, so I'm just going to basically destroy my meeting and introduce a new subject and try to get everybody's feedback. Right? If you happen to be someone who needs more time to process information, or prefers to not necessarily fight for the mic in that environment,
Mm-hmm.
as a leader, I need to know that, right? Because the
Mm-hmm.
last thing that I want to do is not capture your feedback. So I need to maybe look at how I approach that situation differently based on each of the people on my
Single
team.
person. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can give a real example. So I started working with a specific client a couple of months ago, and the first thing I did was to have the entire sales team do the behavioral assessments. And there was one person in particular who, based on their BA, said they were a persuader. Very good, very talkative, very persuasive. One of the things that one of their caution areas, or possibly caution areas, is time management and just general organization. Unfortunately, that person was late for the very first team. So this is me coming in as a consultant, CEO introducing me, and this is the very first introduction with the same team as a consultant, just to say, welcome. This is what I plan to do. I'm here to help the team, here to develop the team. This is what we're going to be doing. and that person was late for the first meeting. And I took them aside and I said, "Did you take a look at your behavioral assessment? Do you agree with it?" And the person said, "Yes, I do." And I kind of went through it with her in detail, and I pointed to certain sections that shows her that this is an area of development. This is an area that you need to really focus on going forward. And what that did for me, in terms of a consultant coming in, not knowing the team, not knowing the personalities, not taking, feedback, because you know how it is when you come in as a consultant. You're always given feedback from CEO or other persons that may or may not be correct. The information may be skewed, information may be old, you're not sure. So one of the first things to do is to do that behavioral assessment and to kind of get an understanding of who the team are and how they go about doing that. Now, Sean, I want to jump back to you. What should companies be doing in terms of their retention strategy going forward? What are the typical things that most companies should do to hold on to their top talent?
Um, One of the most important things I do believe is continuous training, continuous follow ups, and continuous understanding of that person and that person's needs. Each individual that reports to you, as you guys said with the PI, it's different. Everyone's needs are different. Um, One thing I do believe in is continuous education and opportunity within the same company. Um, Promoting someone from within and not looking outside, having that step, that guide, your review, having that communication is key. Having that communication with your current talent to improve on them, to put them from point A to point B. You're training a team lead to become a supervisor to become a manager, depending on obviously the layout and the structure of the company or the organization. Someone coming in starting fresh has that hunger, has that drive. Keep them that way. That's the key. Keeping them that in the way that they want to learn more at all aspects, pushing them to be a better person or to learn more, even if they want to transition to a different department to learn something else. Give them that opportunity to shadow someone. At the end of the day, to retain employees and to keep them happy. Money keeps someone happy, but if they're not enjoying what they're doing and getting that opportunity to be better or to improve or to get promoted in the future, they're not going to want to stay. At our current company, at the current company I work for now, one of the most important things that they celebrate is years of service. Today, I met someone who has been with the company for 35 years. He retires
Wow.
effective tomorrow. One of
Wow.
the most pleasant and positive person I've ever met since the day I started, and I haven't been there that long. And just the way how he is and how happy he is. A lot of the other people I've met working at this company has moved around in different departments and learned so many different things because their managers pushed them, promoted them, and gave them that opportunity. It's someone you have to enjoy where you work and what you do. And if you realize someone is not that way, maybe you ask them to try something new, and that could be something that they can definitely move forward with. But it's not just money, it's just making sure that your employee is happy and satisfied and getting what they need.
Fair enough. So Ken, I know you don't work in HR obviously, but you are a team leader. What are the things that you would do from your perspective in terms of retaining your top talent or your entire team? How do you go about doing that now as a team leader?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Shauna says. So I'll try to add some things that you didn't mention. I agree. Compensation is no longer what's most important. I don't know that it ever was. I think I saw a study a few years ago. It was like fourth on the list. So I don't think it's ever compensation. While it's important because people need to provide for themselves and for their families, it's no longer the most important thing. I think people, especially coming out of COVID, want to work for a company culture that has values that are similar to their own.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so that one I think has risen a lot. In terms of some of the things that I do, I really try to catch people doing something right as much as I can, as opposed
Okay,
to, the
that's an
opposite of
interesting
that.
one. That's an
That's
interesting
I
one.
agree. I completely agree. You did a great job today. That was amazing. Something that just those words really do help people.
Positive reinforcement.
That's right.
Well,
Okay.
I think in general, people who feel good about themselves do good work. So I think you need to look at each person on your team and get to know them. If you're a new manager, especially if you're not a new manager, you want to make sure you're carving out enough time, especially remote, right? You don't have the water cooler conversations that maybe you used to have. So I think you have to actually be more intentful about carving out time to really get to know somebody as best as you can in a remote world. And then
Mm-hmm.
I really think it comes down to investing in them. One of the things that I do in my own mind is I try to, depending on what their story is, where they want to go, I
Mm-hmm.
want to make sure that I do everything I can to help them achieve that. So if they're, like, I'll use your example of sales, if they're a business development rep, entry level, coming into a sales organization, but their goal is, like, in 3, 4, 5 years, they want to be a direct seller, right? Then I want to make sure that I'm partnering with them to help align on how am I going to help them get there? How are they going to get there? And what can I do to help them on their journey? And I think the more we lean into that, I think the happier folks are, the more
People will
engaged they
be,
are.
yeah.
Uh,
And the
and
less likelihood they will resign and fall into the great resignation, right?
yep.
So for the persons online, please feel free to drop your comments. Please feel free to drop your questions in the chat section. Michael Ennis is saying, I've never heard of that one. I think he's referring to the positive reinforcement, right? It's one of the things that I think a lot of persons underscore a lot. The power of positive reinforcement, right? So I have some interesting statistics that I want to share with the audience tonight, and this is via Forbes magazine, and this kind of goes right back to what Shauna has said in a lot of what she sees on a daily basis. The five main reasons why employees quit: burnout, 40%; company going through organizational changes, 34%; lack of flexibility, hybrid world, 20%; instances of discrimination, 20%; insufficient benefits, 19%; and well-being not supported by the company. Um, you didn't see anything here about compensation, right? Let's see what they say about what the job switcher sought in the new job. Ability to work remotely, according to personal preference, 40%. Everybody wants to work remotely. I work in sales. I'm a sales consultant, as you know, and I support a lot of my clients remotely. But is there a face-to-face engagement that's required in sales? Of course there is. Is there a personal interaction that's required in sales? Of course there is. And is there a personal touch as it relates to sales? So I would say, coming out of COVID, I was working almost exclusively as a remote consultant, but now I'm starting to transition a little bit into being a hybrid consultant, supporting my clients remotely, of course, but actually supporting them on the ground where needed. Better compensation, Shauna, 37%. Better management, Ken, 31%. Better company reputation, 29%. Never seen that one before. Better work-life balance, 25%. And flexible work schedule, 24%. Now, when you look at flexible work schedule and ability to work remotely, you're talking about pretty much half of the people who are switching jobs because they're not able to work in a hybrid model or to work remotely. That's what the statistics.
Jermaine, I think you are
From
frozen. But I do agree with what you're saying. Working remotely is key right now, or even in a hybrid situation is key.
magazine is
Ken, are you
actually telling
hearing
us this is
him?
what.
Yeah, I don't think he
Yes.
will let maybe the audio catch up.
Yes, you were gone for a minute,
Okay.
Jermaine, and we were agreeing
Okay.
with
No
the hybrid
problem.
model. We were definitely agreeing with the hybrid model. That is
All
key,
right. So
you know.
Shauna, let me go back to you. How many people do you speak to on a daily basis interviewing for a job who that's one of their number one things that they want
Everybody,
the ability to work
everybody,
hybrid? Everybody. Everybody.
everybody. We are trying to hire
Wow.
even in our own department, and the key talent as talent acquisition specialists don't even want to work from the office. Our my job right now is hybrid, but there are weeks where, let's say, I can't go in or whatever the situation is. My boss is pretty flexible based on the fact that we work well from home as well as we work well in the office. So everyone is asking for this opportunity because most jobs, because of COVID, you can work. You realize that you're doing more work when you work from home. You work better when you work from home. You're more relaxed. But again, looking at your model and the type of persons that are there are some people that do require that interaction with actual people and need that in order
Yep.
to
Yep.
be better at their job. They need that communication versus staying at home alone all day. So I
Gotcha.
think hybrid is the way to go moving forward in the future, not necessarily fully remote.
Got you. So Ken, I know the PI is big on data. You're not a data company, obviously, but there's a lot of information that you have as it relates to the Great Resignation. Is there any specific statistics that you could share with us
Related to, I'm sorry, I didn't follow the.
related to the Great Resignation?
Oh,
Or
and so I shared a couple of metrics earlier. One that I didn't mention, that I do want to share, which I thought was really interesting.
So while you're finding that, Michael Ennis says most companies need to engage workers in a meaningful profit sharing. Yes, that's a practice by some companies. It's not very popular with mega large companies. What you find is a lot of startup companies are open to profit sharing. So Michael, that's a great point. That's something that companies should do. Is that true, Shauna? Ken, profit sharing?
Ken, you take that one.
I think anything you can do to help somebody feel more vested, which I think essentially is what profit sharing does, you're going to care more about what you do because it's going to impact, you're going to see more directly the impact on how that might show up in your profit sharing program. So yeah, I know that's not a reality for some organizations,
Hmm.
the way that they're structured, but I think anything you can do to help make that connection stronger, I think it, I think every employee would welcome it.
Of course, what employer is going to say, oh, you're going to provide a profit sharing model? Oh, we're not interested in that. We're not interested in profit sharing. Absolutely not. So I have somebody else, Dynasty Demon, interesting name. I remember saying this last year that if they figured out how to make school work from home, jobs work from home, that everybody, um,
Everyone.
I'm not sure what he was trying to say there, but yes, that's a good point, Mr. or Mrs. Demon. That you're able to look at that and put things in place. There's another comment from the same person. I think they're continuing it. Everyone will be reluctant to go back to a physical building. That's very true. Okay, I figured out who it is. Good night, Damien. Good night. Yes, but that's a great point. Everybody is doesn't want to go back to a physical building, a physical office. Persons have their preferences, which is why the subject that we're discussing tonight, the Great Resignation, is an actual phenomenon. If you're not familiar with it, you can do your independent research. The predictive index has a lot of information around this. Some additional data that can probably share with us as well. But this is something that you need to think about and really research. Ken?
Yeah, I one statistic that stood out just based off of what you just off of Dash's comment, is that 79% of respondents to this study that was done recently said that they felt now safe going back to work. So they're not returning to work because they don't feel safe. They're not wanting to return to work for some of the things that we've talked about already, and having that flexibility that they didn't otherwise have, and also the access to opportunities that they wouldn't have otherwise had. But here's the metric I wanted to throw out there, or the same study showed that for the first time in the history of McKinsey, this is from McKinsey's Women in the Workplace study, women are leaving the workforce at a significantly greater rate than men. And certainly some of that's due to the fact that women still absorb a disproportionate share of childcare and other responsibilities.
Yeah, I agree.
Uh, but I didn't know if there was, anything else behind that. It's something that like it's the first time we've ever seen that on this particular report.
I can only speak for my state, so I'm sure. Well, Jermaine's not experiencing this just yet, but the Northeast is experiencing, first of all, lack of transportation for children, for schools. So parents themselves have to drop and pick up their kids. When you do that, you think about the time of the day, which does not give you that option to actually go into the office. So you don't have that option. There's also limits as it pertains to childcare locations and daycares. There's a limit to the amount now based on the COVID restrictions. So that's another option. So you can't get your child into a daycare. You can't find someone to watch them. So what are your options? Working from home is the best option. So if you have to go into office, it's a difficult thing to think of, to calculate in your brain how they're going to get to school. School ends at 2:30 to 3 o'clock. That's not my lunch break. I can't run and pick them up. When I do pick them up, where am I taking them? I have to go back to work. So I know what society, looks at women as the main childcare person. So there's a lot of single moms out there as well, and single fathers. So it is a challenge.
Well, I can say I
experiencing that right now. I have to balance and juggle between who, what, where, why, and when on a daily basis. That's why I appreciate hybrid. On the days I don't have that help or that capability, I do have that option to work from home right now.
Well, I can tell you something, Shauna. Dads do actually take on some responsibility. I started Canute Consulting January this year with a dream, and I can honestly say I started it with my daughter. I started a company, started doing marketing, started calling persons, telling them about the business, and I was actually doing daddy daycare and remote school at the same time. So I think
was dropping that off soon.
There's some dads out there that can do as much as the ladies do. So we have another comment from Damon. The in-person touch is key when dealing with sales and marketing, if you ask me, even with the dawn of social media. So you're very right, Damon, right? I have clients that say, Jermaine, you support us great, you're training the team, we love it. We want you to be in office. We want you to be in on island. We want you to go and visit customers with our team. So there's still a level of personal touch that's really required in this day and age. But the Great Resignation, guys, it's a real phenomenon. The Great Resignation is affecting a lot of companies, a lot of people out there, and we want persons to think about hiring people. What are the tools that you're using to hire the right people? What are you doing to retain your top talents? And do you need help? Do you need help from an outside consultant like myself in the Predictive Index to help you through that transition and that journey? Please feel free to do so. So I'm going to ask Shauna, then Ken, to give us your final statements before we close off our stream for tonight.
I just want to say thank you for having me on your stream. I really appreciate it. It was a great conversation. I really hope that people understand what are the most important things before even looking for a job, learning about the company, the culture, as the information that Ken provided to us, and exactly what they want, so that they find somewhere they're happy and they look forward to retiring from a company and not necessarily moving and changing jobs, because that's something that we definitely look at. Constant changes, no consistency, that can cause issues with you also finding a great job. That's basically it. And thank you again, Jermaine.
Thank you, Shauna.
Yes, I want to thank you both, Jermaine and Shauna. It's been a pleasure to be on this conversation today. I look forward to future ones together as well. If I was going to leave everybody with one thing, it would be to flip their Great Resignation to the Great Retention, and really look at, if you haven't already been doing it as an organization, how you can better protect yourself against the mass exodus that is currently happening. Remember that some turnover is healthy. So as you're developing folks and they're moving on in their careers, that is very healthy. So there isn't a healthy rate of turnover that I think most organizations should have. But what's happened is organizations who were not already investing in their people, already were not investing in their culture to the same extent they were with their business strategy, are seeing. Because I think we're all feeling the impacts of folks leaving. But if you were not taking the steps already, what I'm hearing from folks is that their healthy turnover went from 10 to maybe 15 or 20%, not out of control. But if they were already at like a 50% turnover, something that was already, depending on the role, that in some cases it has doubled, in some cases maybe even tripled, that can have a tremendous impact on the business. So invest in your people and switch it from resignation to retention. Spend some time finding out what they really care about, and then
Mhm.
figure out how you're going to help meet them there.
Thank you so much. So we're gonna ride out with another comment from Damon tonight. Hey guys, this is solid work. I'll be attending more meetings like this one. Hashtag I approve this message. Thank you so much, Damon. Thanks to everybody who joined us tonight. This is Canute Consulting Live. Look out for us again on November 17th. All right, that's it. That's the date for our next live stream. Thanks everyone for joining tonight. Thanks to my guests Ken and Shauna, and everybody have a good night. See you next time. Thank you.